Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Vision Committee meeting for November the 19th, 2025. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy, absent. Councilmember Maloney.
Here.
Councilmember Schmisher.
Here.
Councilmember Stein.
Here.
Councilmember Tracy, absent. Councilmember Worthington.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Troutman.
Here. And this evening, we're going to be talking to a really exciting topic, engineering specifications. So we have Leo Evans, our engineer, and Mr. Dell. Are you assistant engineer? What is your official position?
Technically, civil engineer.
Civil engineer. Good. Well, I know I've seen you so many years, so wasn't quite sure of that. So. He doesn't. Oh, there we go. Anyway, so I would like to turn it over this time to both of you, if you would like to get going, and then we'll turn it over for questions.
Very well. Good evening. Thank you all for having us. We're here today to follow up on a presentation that we had back in December of 2024, as we were just getting started to contemplate an update to our engineering specifications. So what we've got today as a part of the agenda and what's available for any of the right-of-way licensed contractors or anybody else that would like to review it in the city is a draft version of those specifications. We're working towards trying to get this approved via resolution at the December 15th council meeting. We started it with this council. We'd like to finish it with this council. Certainly if we're not done taking comments and feedback at that time, it can be delayed. There's no urgency to it, but we would like to shoot for that as a goal for consistency. As I mentioned, the red lines were finished on November 7th, so about, would that be 12 days ago? We did make these available to all of the right-of-way licensed contractors in the city. I think we've handed out maybe roughly 20 copies to date. We haven't got any feedback yet, aside from a note we received just today from the Fremont Sanitation District letting us know that they're still working through it and looking at all the revisions, and that they're happy that we're doing this, but didn't have a lot of feedback to share at this time. So with that, one thing I mentioned before I start is that the formatting of this is still definitely a work in progress. We took, I think it was 20 different Microsoft Word documents and tried to compile it into one Word document so that we have an easier time sorting for conflicting references, and that throws all the headers and footers and tabbing and bullets into pure chaos. So please don't worry about that. Once we get through the actual important red lines, we'll go back through and clean all that part of it up. And so with that, I guess I'll make a quick run through the big sections that we perceive as being kind of the impactful changes. And these follow very closely to the same topics we discussed in December 2024. So the first one I'll highlight is on page 9 of 239 in the agenda, and this is where we have our fee schedule. Our fees were last updated in 2016, so our fees are roughly 10 years old for all of these elements. A lot of these are fees that are assigned to when you obtain a right-of-way permit, or if you call for an inspection on a right-of-way permit, things like that. The other part of the fees are what we use to calculate things like the sidewalk reimbursement, where we have a price that we pay for concrete flat work. With those not being updated for so many years, that program has kind of fallen behind its intent of being able to pay for roughly half of a sidewalk replacement, and I think maybe we're paying for 30% to a third of average ones, so we tried to reset that with updated numbers. The next one is actually on the very next page. This is called we abbreviate it SDRF. It's a street damage restoration fee. This is a fee that exists in our current specs. It's assigned to recoup damages to streets. So essentially, when we pave a new street, we don't want utilities or people to come and cut holes in it after it's done. So there's a fee that's assessed in those situations to helpfully restore, and help us recoup those costs that we've invested in those streets. I believe it may have just been added in the 2017 update to the specs, so it's not terribly old. This is kind of the first time we've attempted a revision of it. There were a few areas we tried to clean up. I know that we tried to simplify the way it's calculated. It was a little complicated and caused some controversy sometimes, the way we added footage to the actual cut area in making those assessments. We also had a moratorium program where we would require contractors to essentially mill and resurface 50 extra feet of street on either side if they had to cut a street within 2 years of it being redone. We did a couple, and they just did not turn out very well. We felt that it was almost worse to have that in there than the benefit we got from it, so we eliminated that. The other change that I would make, or that I would mention, is that we required
Leo?
patches to be square, essentially.
Leo.
Leo,
We
do you
ask a
want me to ask, if I have a question like along the way on what you're
Please.
talking about, do you want me to stop and ask it?
Yes, interrupt me, otherwise I'll keep looking and rambling.
No, it's not rambling at all. It's really fantastic. I just had two questions about the fees before you move on. One, I noticed in the fee schedule 1.5B that it's specific to water mains. Does that also include sanitation district work and like anybody who's cutting into the street, or is it specific to our water department?
Section B is specific to our water department, so those
But
are
there's
fees.
another, I guess, why, is it consistent across the board?
Where they overlap, it is pretty consistent. So an inspection fee is $100 per visit in either sense. So the water fees are more geared towards where we have to install a tap for a customer. So that's kind of where we collect most of those fees. And then where we have to have an inspector on site to witness the water testing, you have to have an inspector has certain credentials and qualifications to be able to accept it.
Okay, but the, like the arterial collector street classification, local chip damage seal fee, like those, we've done our best to make sure that it's consistent regardless of who is
Oh,
cutting into
yes.
the street.
Yes, the SDRF fees apply to any entity, even our own water department. If we have to cut our own street for a water repair, our water department pays those fees as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
And then with regard to the increase in fees, how did we come up with these numbers? Are they based on like what other municipalities do? Are they based on kind of the CPI?
We utilize
over
the
past 10
CPI,
years?
so the CPI was roughly 40% over that 10-year. So most of our fees were adjusted 40%. Any of them that are tied to like concrete or asphalt, we use the current bid prices for those elements that we receive in a bid, or that we get from CDOT bids and things like that.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I had just made notes, and on page 10, and where it talks about water modeling responsible, when, in the blue, we deem necessary, that's an addition. That's been
Correct.
added in. And so we're talking here about a developer responsible to provide water modeling to support large-scale development project. Couple things there. What is water modeling, and what would you consider to be a large-scale development? Number of lots, area, what is that?
Yeah, the only one that I would say it's applied to in my time would be 4 Mile Ranch. So if you're developing, hundreds or thousands of acres of land and are going to build multiple new water mains, we want to have some engineering that goes into it to make sure that your layout fits well with the rest of our system and doesn't create deficiencies off-site. Like if you're going to build something out that requires upgrades to a water tank that isn't necessarily on your site, that's where the modeling helps us identify those. But really, at this point in time, it's probably things like 4 Mile Ranch, maybe the Abbey site. That's maybe even on the low end of what would need it.
And for the TBD, is it really just based on the actual costs incurred by
Correct.
the
We
city?
just ask the developer to carry those costs, and we provide the water model. We maintain our own water model, so we provide them the base data. We just ask them to build their system into it and check for problems.
Awesome. I think it may, and this may be part of your plan, but rather than saying TBD, it may make more sense to just say like cost recovery or based on actual costs incurred.
Sure.
Okay.
And I've got
Go
a
ahead.
comment.
Go ahead.
Wait till he's done finished writing. And on that same page, which is paper 10 or electronic 14 at the top, large scale developments, large scale is hyphenated. So that's under 1.5.
1.5. Back up here.
It's right above 1.6 bond and insurance required.
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Okay, and just another couple of little things like that. Back on paper page 6, which is 1B, where we were just talking about a case by case, there, just under the private fire hydrants, is also hyphenated.
I'm gonna write that down on a different sheet. What page, you said that was paper page 6?
Yes.
Okay.
And then below that, that's under B5, 1B5, I think it is. And then under 1C, there's an after that has been dropped. The sentence should read, projects to avoid the need to cut roads after significant improvements have been made. And you've dropped an after there.
I may grab those pages from you before we leave today, just to make sure I got the right citation noted, but yes, thank you.
Sure.
The next thing that I wanted to highlight for y'all is on agenda page 14 of 239. This is our bonds and insurance. So our municipal code requires bonds and insurance for any work in the right-of-way. The code specifies what the bond requirements are, but it defers the insurance requirements to a document adopted by council, which this is the only document I'm aware of that has insurance requirements. The previous version had one set of limits, which was really geared towards large capital projects like the ones that we lead, where our contractors working for us. It did not have a provision for smaller right-of-way permits, say somebody on Main Street that needs to close the sidewalk to paint their building or put windows in. We had just one set of insurance. So we added a lower tier of insurance that has less requirements. I believe it's just $1 million general liability policy, which is what our attorneys recommended. So we're trying to provide some options there, because we were running into situations where companies were having to spend $3,000 or $4,000 to get our insurance requirements to do a $2,000 job or something like that. So it just wasn't working very well. Let's see. Next one was something we highlighted in December. We added provisions on, what is it, page 26 of 239, that the city engineer would be able to administratively update these specifications. So for things that don't impact fees or, change in materials or change in references to specifications, we would do those administratively rather than via resolution. That was something we talked about. We're proposing to keep that, but if that's something we don't like, we're happy to take that out as well. Right now, any changes require coming back to council with a full resolution and adoption. So that's kind of why they tend to lag a long time between updates and keeping them current. All right. Next was on, let me see. I think it's also starts on page 26, or agenda page 26 at the bottom. We added a section for.
I'm so sorry, Leo. Mine isn't actually numbered. Would it be possible for you to also say the,
Yeah.
like 1.1 or the, thank you,
It
sorry.
is.
Or
spec-
what's typed at the bottom of the page? Thanks.
Yeah, 1.7, minimum construction drawing requirements.
It's in summary,
It's in summary 011.
1100-3.
I don't know why the pages didn't print on this one. I struggled with that too. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
When you're adding that many different documents together, no worries or fault at all. Thank you.
This was a section that did not exist before. We added this based on review of some other municipalities, trying to give a guideline for what the baseline minimum set of plans should include for a city project, just to give some guidance of what types of sheets, what types of details you need. It's not in this section, it's in a subsequent section, but we laid out exactly what we want to see in an as-built set of plans that's delivered to us at the final. Those kind of things weren't real clearly defined, and we ran into some issues with that, so. we'll try to get
You
that
had
sped up.
the blue or changes and then you take it back out with line through it. What does all that mean? I mean,
The line through, the blue, I think, is the color of who made the change. The strike-through is where we eliminated something that was existing, but the blue just designates whoever of the group made the changes
Blue
versus
or
the red.
Or red.
Yeah. I think there may be some purple and one other color in here too.
There are little typos. We don't need to read them out, but do you just want the marked up, like
Absolutely.
construction is misspelled, things like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, some of that doesn't show up real well with the track changes on to be able to search for those things right now, so.
Exactly. But
it
do you
will
just want
definitely-
like hard copy edits?
Yes,
like
if you
that
have a
kind of
hard
stuff?
copy or a scanned copy of any of those little notes, we're happy to take that. And
Awesome.
like I said, once we accept all the changes, we'll be going back through for a reformat. Let's see, what else was we going to touch on here? So, digital agenda, page 30, which is still in section 01100 and is bullet 1.8, contractor responsibility. We did try to make this consistent wherever it's referenced in the spec that we would like 72 hours notice for any lane closures. It was previously, I think, 36 hours. 72 seems to work better for us to be able to work with Christie, especially on busy streets, to get notices out, make sure we're getting advance notice out. We tried to clean that up wherever we could find those references, but this was the first
At
spot.
that particular place right now, you've got, it reads 4872, if I,
Oh, yep, you're right. It's like we played with a couple different ones. Yeah, I think we initially went 48, and then we found other references later on that had 72, so we went for 72 consistent, I believe, is how that came to be.
That also fits with the notification for water work
Yep,
or closure. It includes a weekend.
kind of fits with the
Yeah.
utility locates to require 3 days before you can do that, so it's, we're trying to make those match as much as we can. There is a section, next one is on digital page, agenda pages 35 through 46. That is execution requirements, 01700. Starting with like section 1.4, you'll see that there's just a lot of red line in this section. I just wanted to flag this. None of this is new, but we reorganized it so it was chronological with how a project is built. It was kind of scattered in different pieces, so you'll see a lot of red in those. The only part that is new is in page 1.1, which is the closeout procedures, which is where we added the as-built requirements of what's required in those drawings. All the rest of the red was just reorganizing existing language.
Is that kind of those added portions to the as-built, are those pretty standard that folks are going to have that already, or is that going to be an additional cost that they will have to bear to get that from their engineers?
No, I believe it's all stuff that they would have collected during the normal course of construction. We were requiring more than this in the past. We required a lot more detail, but a lot of it was things that don't benefit us necessarily. We were having people reshoot elevations of surface features that if we need to know that, we can go shoot it later on after it's done. I don't need to know if a sidewalk was put an inch higher, an inch lower than what the plan called for, so. We
Awesome.
tried to capture the things that either change the way a site operates or that we can't get later on once they're buried underground. So
Got it.
that's the big part of it.
Thanks for streamlining that and making it easier for folks then.
Sure. What's next? Real quick, agenda page 66, which is the trenching section, 02324, section 3.3. We added quite a bit of details about trenching. This was a result of the water master plan. We didn't have great trenching sections laid out in a lot of our details for how to make sure our trenches are safe and, you know, secure for our people that have to go down in them and work. This came out of those recommendations from the water master plan. So you'll see the next 10 pages there have a lot of references to sheeting and shoring and different trench standards. So those all came from water. The next one was a big one that we did not talk about previously. It's on agenda page 80. This is one the footer kind of messed up on. The actual top is section 02446. This is horizontal directional drilling. We added an entire new section to our specifications. We did not have anything for this, largely as a result of all of the fiber optic installations that have gone on in town. Those are all horizontally directional drilled conduits, and we didn't have a good way to measure how that work should be done and tracked and progressed and how deep they should be underneath utilities and streets, and this tried to capture all of that and get it into a nice, concise document that'll help us going forward, dealing with those type of projects.
Did you have any lessons learned from roads incorporated into the document?
From Rhodes Avenue?
Roads Avenue.
Railroad permitting? No. I hope we never have to directional drill anything that big or that deep. Let's see. Agenda page 93, and then about 60 pages thereafter is section 02512, water distribution. This was largely rewritten during the water master plan process. This is one that the formatting really kind of caught us on. I think the first 20 pages of that is the actual specification, and then the last 20 to 30 pages is the old specification all lined through. So there's not a lot of substantial changes to it, lots of adding new materials and updating references to specs. But that one ended up with a lot more red in it than is really truthfully there in terms of substantive changes. Let's see. I think there's only a couple other ones I was going to touch on for you. And I forgot to mark the page. Let's see, that is way towards the end. Section 10450 is pavement markings. For some reason, this one did not turn red. This was an entirely new specification. We did not have a city specification that outlined materials and practices for pavement markings, so we did add that section as well. We mostly referenced the CDOT specs and allowable materials and processes that they manage, but wanted to make sure we incorporated that on our end. I don't have the page for that one. I forgot to put a note on mine. It is almost towards the very end. It's got to be about page 200. Oh, here. Yeah, it's got to be about page 215, I would guess, because I did make a note about the next one.
That's 215 is pavement markings.
Yeah, that would be the one. Immediately after that is section 10900, which is titled keyhole excavation. We did, I believe, briefly discuss this last December. This is a specification that allows us and contractors to cut a hole in the pavement to dig down and verify the depth and location of underground utilities. It's pretty simple. It's like a 4 to 6 inch diameter hole. You drill through the pavement. You can go down and get a survey shot where something is actually buried to make sure it's not in conflict. But this specifies how you drill it, what the allowable backfilling materials are, make sure things get restored back the way they were before. So.
I think one of the things that we had someone come to city council to make public comment on, and I also noticed, was in the Main Street 1st to 3rd. I'm assuming they were keyhole drillings. They were kind of 6 inch or 8 inch square,
Yep.
and they were not marked, and you could park and then like fall in them. Like, it was not. How do we ensure that that doesn't happen and that they are appropriately flagged?
I'll have to find the exact citation, but I believe it is in here that the contractor is responsible to make those safe and secure and essentially close the area off while those are open and then get them restored and flushed. But it was the Main Street project where that occurred, and that was that type of work.
Is there, I mean, what can we do differently in the future to ensure that if the contractor isn't following these requirements, that we ensure that they rectify that as quickly as possible? Because that really is a pretty significant safety hazard.
Yeah. I think having more staff time and more people on site to watch it and be aware of those things would be helpful. I will say the contractor corrected that one the next morning after that council meeting. They went out and fixed that right away. So it wasn't that they didn't fix it right away. They left it and didn't take care of it. We didn't know about it till that night. It got fixed right away. So really, it's more about having more time and eyes out there, more awareness about it. We can certainly look at assessing penalties or doing things like that. If it was truly a problem or warranted, we have that ability within our specs to assess penalties for non-compliance. I mean, there's compliance requirements for safety and site security elsewhere in the specs, so.
Are the penalties kind of in one particular section as opposed to spread throughout?
I think they are back at this.
I don't think they're in the specifications.
Oh, are they not? They may be in the actual construction contract is what I'm thinking of. We put penalties in there for damages and non-compliance. There is also a $250 penalty in the municipal code per infringement per day for violating a right-of-way permit terms. So that is right in section Title 12. I'd have to find the exact citation.
But we don't typically actually
I don't
levy those?
believe I've ever levied those fees for a right-of-way permit, no.
Having this policy spelled out so it's clear, because they have, like Liz said, they have to keep it safe. They have to put plates on them.
Can you maybe pull your mic slightly closer? Thanks,
Button
Dal.
push too.
Specifications. Oh, I thought it was on. Having the specifications is a tool that we can use. It's clearly defined what needs to be done. Like Leo said, they have to make it safe, but that policy goes on and shows that if it's not barricaded, they need to have traffic plates on them. I'm sure you've seen lots of traffic plates around in the road. So having that for us to rely on is going to be a big help.
Thank you.
The only other thing I was going to touch on was right after the keyhole excavations, you get into our standard details, but I caught this morning as I was going back through this that the notes that we added with PDF editor did not make it into these details, so the version in the agenda doesn't include the revised ones. We made some revisions to our typical cross-section to include some of the multimodal master plan documents, just to say, you know, if you're building a road that should have a shared bike path on it, this is how it should be located and how wide it should be. We added some details showing where we would desire utilities to be buried in a right-of-way, you know, that we don't want water and sewer right next to each other. We want gas and dry utilities and easements outside of the right-of-way wherever possible. So we will work on getting those updated and pushed back out, but I didn't catch that till this morning, unfortunately. I don't know that there was a lot of other updates to those. I think we made one change to the driveway detail that calls for driveways to be paved kind of between the back of curb and sidewalk, which matches what's in the UDC at this point. We require driveways to be paved generally where there's sidewalk within the right of way. That may be the only one
We
that can
added-
come up to my head.
Rebar to the alley crossings at the sidewalk. It wasn't in there, even though we've
Reinforcing.
been doing that internally. So we
If-
just added it.
If the driveway isn't already paved and sidewalk is added, people aren't required to pave their driveways.
The only time it's come up is during a project where we've done like Reynolds Avenue, where if we had a gap between the sidewalk and the back of curb, we would want that area paved just to make sure that we're not pushing extra dirt out in the street and got those driveways well defined. But I don't think we would require anybody to pave a driveway if sidewalk was added. No.
Great. And then I just wanted to flag, I think in the multimodal master plan, there were a couple of street bike lane configurations, some of which were very strange, where you had like cars parked in the middle and then the bike lane by the sidewalk. And I just want to make sure that the ones that we're adding in here are the more standard ones as opposed to the more innovative approaches that aren't as common.
Page 236 of 239 in your agenda is our typical section that kind of shows how those would be laid out in a typical sense. So that's kind of our, we show the bike lanes where they would ever be built would be next to the traffic lane with the parking on the other side of the bike lane.
Sure. You had just mentioned that some of these had been revised based on what was in the multimodal master plan.
Yep, this is the only one that I think the comments came through on, was that sheet 236 out of 239. And that shows the bike path,
Okay,
where those would be,
thank you.
as well as the widths and things of that nature. Like I said, I think we'll certainly continue to work with our contracting partners, all our licensees, take feedback. My hope is, like I said, to bring this back to the December 15th council meeting if we don't have any big substantive changes, but we're certainly open to taking comment and feedback up until that agenda item is due on December 5th. So we've got a couple of weeks left ahead of us for comment and feedback.
Thanks for taking the time to send those out to all the right-of-way license holders and proactively soliciting that feedback.
Did they had a timeline to get them back to you? I saw that Jessica had sent it, well, the sanitation district had sent it back.
Yep.
Or said they wanted time.
Yeah, like I said, we would ideally like comments back by December 1st. To make the December 15th council, I'll want to have a final version turned in for the agenda packet on December 5th. So if I can get comments by December 1st, it's easiest for us to incorporate them. Like I said, though, if not, there's no reason this couldn't be done in January, February. We started it with this council. We wanted to try to finish it with this council. It took us longer than we hoped, but we're on a path to maybe get there.
So, because if they're, at the end of the day, our constituents will come to us and complain maybe about something. If you were to categorize, like for the sewer district, would there be any surprises, do you think, for them, or large changes that they might find objectionable? I mean, I didn't see any, and that's a lot of stuff to read, but.
I don't think there's any large changes. The SDRF fees are probably the area that we hear about the most.
Yeah.
I mean, those can be expensive fees
Yes.
if you have to cut a new road. The area that we did change on that was, we want to have our patches all be square, not a little squiggly line that cuts across the pavement. We want nice square patches. And if it is on an arterial or collector road, I think we did specify that the whole lane width would be patched rather than doing a partial lane width patch. So that may make some of the patches a little bigger than what they absolute minimum is to make them, which would make those fees bigger. But then again, we also eliminated the requirement to mill and resurface a bigger area, which was something that they had to pay for it at their own cost. So we tried to balance where we maybe added a little bit by taking some of the things away.
Okay. Any other questions of council? Well, thank you. That was a lot. I mean, if,
It is a lot.
I may,
lot of work.
I may review this evening if I have a hard time falling asleep.
Revising 200-plus pages
Wow.
of technical specifications is
It's-
a horrendous undertaking.
I saw that, and then it said 236 pages, and I thought, oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I appreciate
You're
that,
welcome.
Leo.
Thank
and
you all. I appreciate it.
Dan Deller. So, any other questions of council? Andrea? Okay, well then we're adjourned, and thanks again.